Welcome to the Free Money Podcast. We're bringing you the Brooklyn Bay Area consensus about institutional investing that you desperately crave.
Yes, you do crave it. And that consensus wasn't always there, Sloan. I was thinking back, the Brooklyn, California consensus, it used to be a beef in the era of Tupac.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And so I think we should just be grateful for the consensus that has emerged between California and Brooklyn, probably thanks to us.
That's a great point. We're out here building bridges, tying communities together.
Yep. Glad that beef is over. I think it's actually, as far as I know, it may not be over. Maybe the beef is good.
The East Coast, West Coast rap beef, like I think that there are multiple generations of it.
You're probably right. It's probably still happening, actually. If we looked it up, there'd probably be like new, younger people carrying the beef.
Well, I think like now it's like every rapper has beef with like Southern rappers, like Lil Wayne, who just used the auto-tune, you know? So like the evolving geography of beef, very interesting.
Evolving geography of beef sounds like a PhD thesis that one of my colleagues at Oxford would have written.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's what an amazing thing. That's what academia is for.
Seriously, like what the heck? Now we all want to go back and be academics, study the geography of beef.
Hell yeah. I'm a hip hop scientist.
Not Wendy's. How you doing? We had new music today. Why? Why did we have new music?
I just moved in with my girlfriend. I don't have my speaker set up yet. So, we were very lucky that you had a clip hanging out, and ready for us.
And actually that clip is it means I am empowered.
That's true. I am usually the
clips. I am ready for many clips. Are people excited about that?
Yep, everyone's excited about that.
You're too kind.
This is where you would hit an applause clip usually.
Yeah, exactly.
But
actually, did you hear the clapping? I was playing. Yeah. Okay, good.
So like what's actually great about this theme though, we're talking about impact investing, right?
It's the impact episode.
And like, I think starting off as being like, we cured East Coast, West Coast rap beef is like such a perfect case in point of what can happen in impact investing, right?
It's so true. Like the unintended consequences of the beef.
Yeah, exactly.
Like two great people dying.
Yeah, two great people dying, or even just like us coming out and like 30 years later being like, we've solved this problem forever. Don't worry about it. We're so innovative. Is there any area of investing more misunderstood than impact investing to you?
I don't think so. I think it is the most confusing. I think there's some people that are like, oh, I fully understand what impact investing is. It's, you're pursuing some different objective other than investment returns. And then my classic response, which is a bit kind of dickish, is to say, I, for my part, have never seen an investment on earth that doesn't have an impact on somebody.
Yep.
Every investment is an impact investment, and they create jobs. The whole point is to either save jobs, create jobs. So when we talk about impact investing, in general, I think people are saying, hey, we want to achieve something other than just make money. And so let's use our investment dollars rather than philanthropic dollars or charitable dollars to try to drive some positive outcome. And where I get confused, Sloan, and maybe you can help me, is how do we differentiate between the impact investment space, the $90 trillion that is out there and defined as sustainable? The difference between sustainable
yet impact less. Yeah,
it's impact light, maybe.
It's impact. All the sustainable stuff that doesn't define itself as impact. I guess is by definition zero impact, right?
But maybe by having less harm, we could define the impact as less harm. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, It's weird because I think like I was watching the classic movie musical The Greatest Showman a couple of weeks ago.
Very classic.
Total. I mean, it actually
circa 2018. Is that the version you were
circa
watching?
2018? Yeah. Hey, it's like it's full of songs that are just absolute bops. I encourage everyone to watch it. But it's the story of P.T. Barnum.
It's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie, and and P.T. Barnum was basically himself like the first impact investor. He called it profitable philanthropy.
Yeah.
And so he did these like creative things in his town of Bridgeport to kind of like move things in the direction that he saw fit.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, the theory of it is incredible. And I don't want to diss people who are out there trying to develop impact investment strategies. I myself am like really passionate about this topic, and I'm being a bit, facetious here. But the reality is, it's the Wild West. It needs so much more data, but it's going to be fun because with that 90 trillion I mentioned, and that's a real number, that's the PRI signatory number, right? Mm-hmm. There's something like 1 million investment professionals that are going to need to begin measuring portfolios in ways they are not currently measuring. So 1 million people are going to need new data, new analytics, and new ways of measuring what the hell this impact is that we're so excited about. And then ideally, once we start measuring it and really being smart about how we capture the data and then what we do with it, maybe we can start to build portfolios that actually drive more impact. That's the real holy grail.
But that's a huge problem, though. Like I think like at CFA Institute, we would start talking about this, and people would start getting very, very into the weeds about it. It's like, oh, you're an impact investor, huh? Name every impact that you have. And so there are all of these like philosophical discussions about at what level to verify the impact, at what level to approach it. That kind of forestalled for time anyway any progress.
It did. I mean, it's like the haters can shut it all down, and I think we can go back to like Gene Rogers and SASB and say there's certain impacts that are going to be material for certain investment strategies. Like I know a lot of investors who are out there trying to solve climate change. Like, yes, they are investing in companies. But they're investing in companies because they view that as a way to scale technology and scale solutions. But like the ultimate goal is solving the climate crisis and preventing a catastrophe. So that's a pretty clear impact, and you can be really laser focused on achieving it. I think it's hard when you actually are trying to manage too many impacts at once, and you're like, well, we want to avoid, slave labor, and we want to solve climate change at the same time. Well, like that gets to be tricky to build into an investment strategy.
It's so disgustingly tricky to do these things all at once. I mean, it was just shocking to explain to someone who's outside the financial system. But like once you actually think about it, I guess the problem is we don't have established ways of verifying impact. So I guess let's get someone on the phone who's established.
Let's do it.
Way of thinking about it.
Who are we calling? Help me pronounce this name.
We're calling Christina Leijonhufvud. I hope I pronounced that right. Who is a founder at Tideline, an impact consultant.
Beautiful, Christina.
Drum roll.
Yes.
Hi there.
Hey, Christina. It's Ashby Sloan.
How are you?
Nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on the podcast here and chatting about impact investing. We're super excited.
I'm very happy to. I'm so surprised not to be on Zoom for a change. This is very traditional.
This is by design. We really try to keep it comfortable. We just don't understand how to work the tech. In fact, we've been needing to do Zoom, but we don't know how to out. We don't know how to.
It's so true. Like, our editor is always like, "Hey, can you just please make this one small change? It will improve audio quality so much." And we're like, "Yeah, we'll definitely do that this year."
Like, that's going to happen. Like, and we 3 months. And But anyway, look, it's awesome to have you here. We're just started the show talking about the Wild West of impact investing and how everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to drive positive change as they make money. But it's a question in our minds, and this is where we decided to call you on, how do we measure it? What are we doing? How do we drive impact? And so the first question for you is, why are we trying to verify impact, and what are the elements of impact that are in actuality verifiable?
Yeah, great question. Well, why we think now is the time to start actually verifying impact is really because the market has, thankfully it's grown and matured and scaled and infiltrated mainstream markets beyond what my wildest imaginations when I got into this part of the market about, 15 years ago. But with that mainstreaming has come, obviously all of the concerns around the lack of any standard around the use of the label impact, and fears around impact washing, rainbow washing, SDG washing, whatever you want to call it, abound. So verification, together with a key set of standards that investors can coalesce around when it comes to impact practices and impact performance, to us represents the best antidote to those concerns around impact washing and lack of labeling standards. On the question of what can be verified, I think we tend to think of it as sort of two big buckets. There's sort of what is an investor or an asset manager doing the things they're saying they're going to do in order to achieve targeted impact. That's on the practices side of the equation. And are they actually achieving the intended impact that they say they're targeting? And that's on the performance side of the equation. So we're, Bluemark, our new company at Pipeline, is providing services for both impact management practice verification and impact reporting and performance verification.
So this is really interesting philosophically, because as from a portfolio management perspective, so much of the discourse about which assets are good and which assets are bad is about how they interrelate. And the relative contribution of these various portfolio assets is directly comparable at, when you're talking about a traditional investment objective, right? Like maximize portfolio return. How should we expect the quality of comparison to function in the impact investing world?
Yeah, it's great. Well, that we're really looking to bring the same kind of discipline, if you like, to impact management as exists in the financial management sphere. And actually, when you think about the role of asset classes in portfolio management and diversification, Pipeline actually coined a concept some time back called impact classes. What we felt was really critically needed by the market was a framework for actually classifying the impact of various investments in the same way that you classify your various assets along asset classes. And verification helps to do that. If an investor says, I'm contributing to this particular sustainable development goal, and I'm doing it through a sort of an exclusionary strategy, well, that puts them in a specific kind of impact classification. But you need that verified. You need someone to go in and say, well, they're actually doing what they say they're doing to avoid or exclude certain negative effects, and this is how that's related to the targets laid out under this particular sustainable development goal. So it's actually, I love the analogy with kind of traditional portfolio asset allocation frameworks. It's, I think, very analogous.
Yeah, I mean, that is such an active mental model for so much of that defines so much of the way that assets get sort of deployed in the world. And it's cool to see impact investing kind of taking that form. I'm curious though, one of the big problems of the traditional world is this issuer paid research thing, where if you want if you're a municipality, if you're a toll road or whatever, and you want to get your project rated, you typically have to pay a third party person to do that. And that creates all kinds of weird issues, right? Where you can shop around for the best rating, where the people who are doing the rating can be, kind of like marketing people for your project. Does impact, or how are we doing that in impact verification so that we're aligning with end investor interests?
Yeah, this is a question really close to my heart since I spent years at JP Morgan running both the ratings business and risk management functions. So I have thought a lot about the conflicts of interest inherent in the credit rating agency world. And I mean, the truth of the matter is, in any business, in any professional services environment, you've got conflicts based on who is paying for your service. So my own opinion is that the problem, the issuer pay problem, is perhaps not the biggest problem confronting the credit rating agency market. I think, to me, the bigger problems are the fact that it's an oligopoly. You don't have sufficient competition in that market, so there's a regulatory problem. And the worst offenses, I think, in the credit rating agency world were, of course, in their rating of securitized debt instruments, where they really had a lack of independence. They were running consulting services out of the same business they were running rating service. So that really put them into direct conflict with their clients. That's something that the reason Tideline launched Bluemark as a separate and independent business, entirely separate from the consulting business, was very, very specifically to get away from that potential problem. I think ultimately, impact verification, it's true, we're getting paid directly by those who we are evaluating and rating. However, we're very clear on whose interests we're serving. I mean, ultimately, the asset owners need verification to, number one, help them better sort and select investments in the market, help them conduct due diligence. Ultimately, we think of the asset owners as the ultimate client, if you will.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that jives pretty nicely with our perspective that if we can kind of guide the asset owners, the investors with the right data, then the incentives kind of flow through the rest of the system in order to achieve the outcomes we're all kind of hoping for. When we think about what are we after, right? Like what are the pursuits and goals of impact? It struck Sloan and me that some impact objectives like decarbonization or solving, climate change will result in the building of nuclear power plants, which will then create different constituencies that will be very much against that. Similar type of situation with affordable housing and gentrification. How do you kind of handle in your day-to-day work the competing stakeholders and the different challenges that this new space creates in terms of winners and losers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one great manager of mine used to say, if something ever looks too good to be true, it definitely is too good to be true. And I think most consumers of impact verification, whether they're sophisticated investors or not, know better than to accept a few sort of impact KPIs at face value and assume that a manager is changing the world by supporting a few additional jobs. And so I think a lot of this is about, what we would call really quality impact measurement and reporting. And, one of the still big challenges facing this market, we have some really good standards now for what constitutes robust impact management practices, like the operating principles for impact management, for example. But on impact measurement and reporting, we have some of the tools, but we still don't have a universal view or agreement on what constitutes quality and complete impact reporting. And there is a drive by some, I think, to go towards kind of ever increasingly sophisticated quantification of impact, even monetization of impact performance. And, to us at Bluemark, impact reporting is more complicated than that. And it's really about providing a very balanced view of the impact that's being created. And that means talking about positive impacts and negative impacts and impact risks, and ESG risks and unintended consequences and lessons learned. It also involves drawing in kind of the views of local stakeholders. And I think we have some tools and standards that are helping, I think, drive forward and advance, mechanisms for bringing in community and stakeholder views. 60 decibels is one that comes to mind, which spun out of Acumen Fund. So I think the market is armed with a lot of really good tools. Now we need to bring it all together in a single standard. But Bluemark is launching a quality impact assurance reporting verification service, and it really looks at it holistically in that way.
That's great. I think one of the things you said that kind of struck a chord with me was this notion of impact risk. So like that the lens of impact can help you understand the things you're investing in and maybe give you a richer or kind of more detailed understanding of the long horizon effects. And I think that for me, like that's the most interesting use case for impact. It's like when you're looking out over a very long time horizon, super hard to figure out cash flows and margins and all this. But it's pretty simple to say, look, if this succeeds, there's this big impact. And so do you see that as like the pathway to integrating impact into decisions? Is like, this is a lens for thinking about the future? Or do you coach your clients in a different way to use impact, as like an attribution tool looking at the past?
It's a great question. I think we really are working to bring verification services that we hope will instill almost like this really healthy competitive dynamic around how to continually raise the bar and improve on impact performance. So by bringing verification services that facilitate, not only benchmarking, your own impact practices and performance against a standard, but comparing across different players, what represents advanced practice or advanced performance. We think like a really healthy dynamic is induced that will lead investors to continue to up their game, and continue to kind of internalize lessons learned and build that into their strategies and their systems. So that's sort of the long game. I think that, it requires a look back. It requires a look forward. It involves both ex ante, really rigorous ex ante impact evaluation and really rigorous ex post impact evaluation, and then building that into a learning process for investors where they can improve and keep raising the bar for others.
That's fascinating. And, as I hear you talking about the investor perspective, which obviously we concentrate on, obviously we are sympathetic to, right? But I can't help but wonder about the sort of operator perspective, right? Where I think like you take the example of, I started a widget startup that aims to disrupt the widget space and make the world a better place. Because of the social alignment of my business, I take a bunch of impact, sort of oriented money. What can I expect as the business operator that the demand for verified impact would create sort of compliance type requirements on video just totally screwed up at drinking a ginger ale.
Sorry, I spilled a ginger ale all over myself. Please carry on.
Good thing we're not on video.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can spill as much ginger ale on yourself as you want during this thing. That's kind of the guest's privilege, you know.
That's good to know.
But yeah, like I'm curious, like can we expect a demand for verified impact to create like compliance type requirements for folks who take capital from impact driven investors?
Yeah, I mean, we're very attentive and sensitive to the fact that, verification in some respects, imposes some costs on the system, obviously. I do think the market is moving dramatically in the direction of requiring a level of accountability, however. And ultimately, I think this boils down to, weighing the cost of getting verified against, or getting, various actors in the market verified against the costs and friction that are caused by, a lack of transparency and a lack of comparability into, the impacts that are actually being generated. So I think that this is about really increasing the efficiency in the flow of capital towards, and the optimization in the flow of capital towards impact investing to those investments that are really living up to their claims. And so, ultimately, I think this is about making the lives of asset owners and asset allocators easier. So, yes, we're maybe redistributing some of the costs in the system, but I think it's a really healthy development. And, frankly, I think it's going to become a kind of a necessary, price of entry. We see the regulators in the EU moving towards, requiring it. So I think around ESG disclosures. So I think it's coming.
Well, and honestly, cheers to that, right? Like, I mean, we can do a lot worse than to exist in a world where we're a little bit too cautious about how we deploy, about the quality and intensity of the positive impact we're making in the world, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I love your podcast. I think it's awesome. And I love that you make this stuff entertaining. I'm sorry if I was too wonky.
No, you're amazing. You're amazing.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah.
You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah. We're trying to keep it wonk positive too. Yeah.
It's wonk positive.
Yeah, safe space for wonks.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you. Have a great week.
All right, chat to you later.
Bye.
Wow.
She's great.
She's great.
I'd love to see, all the thinking behind how these things kind of get standardized. I mean, one of the things she said, which I would have loved to like drill in with her, was like, well, we need all this to get standardized. And it's like, how do we do that? But it's great to hear all the different perspectives and that they're building a business around this, right? And they're not alone. And so it may be the Wild West today, but it probably won't be in 6 years' time.
Yep, exactly. And all it takes is like for a couple of projects to go from concept, to implementation, and then through to like the evaluative stage, within sort of a, one given framework for it to become relatively standard, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is really cool to be like, it's almost like if you were talking to like Moody's or Fitch, they came on the Free Money podcast and we were like, so you want to rate bonds, huh? Tell us about that.
Exactly. You're amazing.
But you almost killed me with the ginger ale. That was hilarious.
I thought you were going to pull it off. I thought you were going to be able to save it, but I witnessed the laughing build.
Yeah.
It became uncontrollable.
Yeah.
For those of you not able to see me, I was trying to sip a drink and it exploded onto my face. And yeah, it was surprising for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, with all that said, I think
Oh,
we're back to the OG Dear Ashby horn.
Oh yeah. I think I actually I have it. But I also have this.
Oh yeah, love a little journey.
To that feeling. Anywho,
You can't hear that and not think and not sing.
You just got to play Journey every once in a while.
I mean, hey, like, should we shout out to? I mean, I think they're a Jersey band. Anyway, this is the part of the show where we ask Ashby questions, but also where I traditionally shill for reviews in the podcast store. Please,
I think we're almost up to 10. I mean, it's being above 5, we round up, right?
Yep. And they're from nice people who've said nice things about us, which is great.
I think we have a 5-star rating.
5.0.
Yeah, exactly. That is a 5.0. We're not talking 4.6 and then rounding up this time. Yeah, that's for other time.
Exactly. But I guess the first question for this week is this kind of like New York City local politics thing.
Let's do it.
Yeah, which like, you know, somebody I know who's like a politics person pinged me this sort of like piece about our comptroller, which is a hilarious title. Scott.
Are we doing more comp trolling jokes?
I will try and control.
We've done a lot of those already.
I'm going to stay in comp troll. But Scott Springer's running for mayor, and he oversees our pension plans in the city. And he's been taking a lot of criticism from progressives for investing in the Blackstone private equity funds. Has this been an issue in other campaigns? You know, how much has this come up?
Can I be honest and say that I wish it came up more?
Yeah, ditto TBH.
Yeah. Oh, for real, Ashby?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. What? You don't like private equity funds?
Mainstream? Yes, I do. I want pension fund matters to be mainstream. I think we should all care. And we should all care where they're investing their money because there are impacts.
Yeah.
And the impact from investing in a Blackstone fund is that, you know, you're going to pay Blackstone a lot of money and they're going to use that money to, in this case, at least the article you sent me, screw over a bunch of renters.
Yep.
And, you know, I think part of why I want to bring transparency to the fees and costs we're paying private equity is to basically show that like politicians have political risk from allocating too much capital to these egregiously expensive, often, you know, when you do a risk adjusting, underperforming investments. This was the dream. Now, in this case, I don't fault Stringer. You know, I don't fault this was out of his control. I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't empowered that fund to be innovative and creative, and yet we've also asked them to make a ridiculous rate of return to keep the city from not paying, you know, pension benefits instead of funding schools.
Yep.
So the left-leaning folks, like, I feel you. I want a global conversation about how much we're paying these people and what they're doing with our money. But like, it's rigged against the comptroller in this case. He has to go and invest in these asset classes, often through managers, because he doesn't have the budget to insource. And so it's a much more complicated discussion than saying, what a jerk, they own Stuyvesant Town or whatever. Yeah, that's my take.
It's like, in a way, I mean, allocating to like the Blackstone, I mean, first of all, a Blackstone real estate fund is like the ultimate mainstream private equity vehicle.
Totally.
You know, it's like two mainstream things layered on top of each other.
It's like, it's the IBM of stock, you know, of like private equity. Like you've invested in a name brand. There's no risk for your career. You know, it's probably going to do 9% to 13%. You know, it's just what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And it's super expensive, but, you know, I just don't feel like we should be giving him that much grief. But I do love that it's becoming a topic to talk about.
Yeah, it's kind of great that we're getting rid of some safe options, because that really needs to happen in investing so that we can have the real discussion.
From your words to everybody's ears.
Yeah, we'll just sign up everybody for the Free Money Podcast by force.
Sign up.
Yeah, the podcasting will continue until morale improves.
Exactly.
All right. So, the next one is J.P. Morgan is saying that their full year earnings could swing plus or minus 15 billion based on the effectiveness of government stimulus. Should we interpret this as just raw posturing? Their bottom line is, of course, directly aided by stimulus.
This one made me want to barf. Henry, my son, and I invented a new word this week. This is a little bit of a non sequitur. It's a burp barf. It's called a burp. Where you kind of burp, but you barf anyway. Sorry.
That's really gross.
Whatever that word is, that's what this made me do.
Yeah.
Because it just goes to show you how much of the wealth captured by Wall Street is a function of government, right? Like go back to the GFC and the financial crisis and the TARP bailout and how rich people on Wall Street got as a function of government bailouts.
Yep.
And here we are again for them to say that. Like, who approved that messaging? Like ridiculous. Like the idea that like their profits will swing if government does a stimulus, which by the way, I sure hope we're not doing the stimulus to save JP Morgan's shareholders.
Or poor Jamie Dimon.
I know, like we're doing this for people.
Yep.
And the fact that like that's the swing to their bottom line. Yeah, that made me a little bit ill to read. Yep. The market is not free. You can't think of the financial services industry as existing as like the icons of capitalism. They're as embedded in, the bureaucracy of the nation state as anybody.
Yep.
So yeah, that was, I don't know if it's posturing or what, but yeah, I didn't like that one.
Yeah, it's very like, I mean, you could think of bankers as these like statesmen like people, I mean, they're, always going off and having careers as ambassadors when they have made enough money.
Isn't that true? It's kind of a revolving door. Like all these Goldman Sachs people end up, at the Treasury and, And by the way, it's like the greatest trade of all time, because if it's a Senate approved appointment, I think you get to sell all your assets tax free or something.
Yep. Yeah. That's the long game. That's really playing the long game, and you should put that in your app. Like, you really plan ahead enough so that you can like plan to get Senate confirmed when you're like 55 or 60.
I guarantee you people are doing the math. They're like, look, I'm going to start donating money to campaigns because my plan is to get one of these roles so that I can sell all my, anywho.
We're inventing all kinds of new ways of barfing over here.
Or at least describing barfing.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the last question for this week is Claudia Zeisberger, and a bunch of co-authors in Institutional Investor are arguing that venture capital funds are underperforming because they are over diversified, and they advocate for a 5-position VC fund.
Wow.
Which, like, is that not just a co-investment?
So a 5-position VC fund feels very freaking risky to me. Like the really good venture investors. Now, let's take a step back. There's different approaches for venture funds. There's venture funds that are like out looking for what we call, doubles, triples, and home runs, 2x, 3x, 4x your investment. And then there are venture funds for whom they are looking for 1,000x's. And they are picking companies, that have a 10% chance of succeeding. And so they go out and they do, 40 of these companies because they want 4 of them to have a chance at hitting that 1,000x. And that's how they get their numbers. It's not like all the companies are doing well. It's the power law. And one of those companies goes and it just takes off and it keeps going. It drags the whole fund up with it. So the way you construct these portfolios, just for everybody out there, is very different than you would in a private equity fund, where they may only have 5 to 8 companies in a private equity fund because all these companies are cash flowing and established, and it's just a different stage of company. So if a company goes bankrupt in a private equity fund, that's a big deal. If one goes bankrupt in a venture fund, that's like no big deal. Like nobody noticed. Like the partner's bummed, but that partner has 3 more companies in that fund. let alone in the kind of partnership generally. So to me, I would have to like understand that. I saw a paper in Institutional Investor that I thought was pretty interesting, where they're like, actually, the ideal venture fund is one that is much more diversified. Like 300 to 500 startups.
Did I misread that thing?
I'd have to go back and look. But anyway, I love what you're going for. But I think that it's very hard to do that because it's like blocking and tackling when you're dealing with early stage companies. And so the only one that I've seen come close is this one out of Singapore called Hatcher, where they have this automated system to make these investments, and they've built relationships with incubators and accelerators around the world. And they are trying to go build funds of like hundreds of companies with the idea that, if you can kind of reduce the cost of doing that, and you kind of just get an exposure to the early stage, then you get like the most risky companies, and you get a bunch of them, and that you'll capture some of that kind of power law. So I've seen that. I've never seen anybody argue for a venture fund of 5 or 6. That would be cool.
You heard it here first. Well, you heard it here first. Yeah, the free money venture fund with just like portable alpha and
that being said, people do co-investments, like you say. Like pension funds will get deals pitched to them by their GPs, and the GPs will participate. But usually that's like Series C, D.
Yeah.
That's not Series A.
Yeah, that'd be like a pretty late stage guy that would have gone public in a prior generation of years, right?
That's right, and may get dragged public in the era of SPACs.
Yep.
Or may choose to go public in the era of our fan club, long-term stock exchange.
Exactly. The long-term stock exchange shout out.
Hopefully they are going to drag companies public earlier so that we can democratize access to that value.
Yeah. They'll build them a nice home in the public markets,
Build a nice home. Public markets suck, mostly.
Yeah, truly.
So let's change that. Yeah. All right. I don't know if I answered that question right, but
I think that's pretty interesting. I think you answered it.
Okay, good.
But yeah, like I think that about does it for this episode.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
All right, let's leave it.
Leave it.
It's
all right. Well,
Halloween, so we probably got to do.
Oh shit! What are you going to be for Halloween?
Did you hear that guy?
Kind of, very faintly.
Okay, too bad. The evil laugh. Well, look, Halloween. I don't know what the hell we're going to do for Halloween, to be honest. I think my sister is going to come up with her kids, and we're going to try to do a pod vibe. And my parents are like, look, you can trick or treat at like the garage door, at the front door, at the bathroom door. Like, it's like we're trying to figure out how to
Please don't kill us by coming for Halloween.
Yeah.
We're probably going to buy some candy and just leave it out on the stoop for the kids.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know how the world is doing it. Normally, the town I live in, Los Gatos, like is nuts it's like notorious. There's one street here where when you buy a house on it, there's a rider that says you have to participate in Halloween. And so, for real, if you buy a house on this one street, it's like you have to participate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in there of COVID.
That honestly rules so hard. Like, such a great law. I guess we'll be able to report back pretty shortly.
Yeah. And I figure, should we plug the SoCab?
Well, this will be coming out during SoCab. So if you're
on right now, it's SoCab, everybody.
Anyway, more good things coming.
Yeah.
Love you.
Really
We're dorks. Goodbye.
Bye.